We're going to start the meeting October the 25th, November the 15th, 2023. We're going to motion to approve the minutes of the meeting October the 25th, 2023.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Dan, second by Bob. Any discussion? All in favor?
That's running.
It's running, yep. So we've got, that was passed
everybody's-
401.
Were you at the last meeting, Dan?
Thought it was.
Yeah.
Oh, you were?
Four-
It says.
Passed 401.
This is weird.
We're gonna go move past the executive session. We don't need to have that, so we're not going to have it. Which brings us to the financial report update. Mike?
All right, your financial reports. Before we jump through those, I just want to, I have this on your memo to you folks. This year has been pretty challenging. We've had our finance director position has turned over twice on us. We have had this position vacant now for 2.5 months. So it's been really hard to continue to get our reports done and to you and accurate, and it's been extremely difficult to start trying to plan for 2024 and the upcoming year. But we have been limping along. Tanya has been assisting us with our financial reports, even though she no longer works here. She's moonlighting and helping us out in doing that. We have found a number of kind of missteps. It would appear that our general ledger accounts have not been reconciled since July. Having not reconciled those, it's hard to say, well, if one had an error, and if it did, it can compound over the months up until now. So we've got to get those reconciled. At the last trustee meetings, both Water and Sewer District Boards supported moving forward with Maine Rural Water Association for our financial services. We do have them onboarding. They've already started working on this stuff. They will be at our December meetings to give a presentation. They will be preparing the financial reports for December and working on the budget from there on forward.
We're still on this page, right?
We're almost onto that page.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so we're just getting into there. Revenues are down. Water sales are down. Again, it was an extremely wet year. I just don't think there was as much irrigation and washing as in the past. I think that lends partially to it. The past 3 years before now have been very dry, so there was a lot more irrigation and outdoor activities and that we didn't have this year. The rest of our budget, we do have a $330,000. There's that we're overdrawing on the year. There's a number of things between projects and the revenues being down that are attributing towards that. Cash on hand, we are ending in a good place. I think it was a very wise decision this district made a couple of years ago to do the bonding that we did. It's really coming in handy to help us when we overdraw for projects and to get this stuff done. And we're going to be given a presentation later in the meeting about projects and project costs and project planning that will help kind of explain some of these overdrawings. So yeah, outside of that, did anyone have any questions on the pages provided?
So we do have somebody, that wasn't at the last meeting, but we do have somebody that we're going to use for our
Yep.
account. And there'll be a point person.
There is, yep. Daphne Paulette is her name. She has over 35 years of experience working with Maine Water Utilities. And I say Maine Water Utilities meaning different utilities around the state. Right now, she does the financial services for 7 other utilities. She's very familiar with this stuff. They're a very competent company. I think we're going to find ourselves in very good hands, much like we were. I mean, we've been in good hands in the past. Tanya did an excellent job. But when we had Greg Layton, I think you used to interact with Greg.
Yep.
Greg brought that same depth of information from having managed other utilities, and he brought that to us, and I think it's going to be refreshing to be back to that. So.
Excellent. And I think it's going to be budgetarily friendly in the long run.
It's going to be in the long run, yeah. We're not paying, health insurance or benefits on that position, and it's going to help us in the office as well, because we took 2 positions and we combined them into one, and it's put a lot of stress on trying to get it done with less. So it's going to help.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any other comments, questions for?
Not until we get to this.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we're on that.
So we're on that.
Well, that's what I want. Okay, now you were finished with that. Go management, way down at the bottom of the expenses.
Yep.
It appears they have no intention of staying within the budget that we have provided them with. Because they're over 14,303 over budget, and we haven't even seen October bills, November bills, or, well, October bills, or what November bills are gonna be, or December bills. And we're not gonna get some of those until January, and maybe even February. We may still be seeing some final bills. And I'm wondering, how much over budget are they? And it appears they have no intention of trying to stay within the budget. And I need to know who, the contract is with, is Lewiston contract with USDA to do the go management.
Correct.
So they're the front, they're the ones that deal with it. Someone needs to have a conversation with, and we need to be involved with it, with go management, about, you know, we've got, between the two of us, $126,640.
The
It's
contract-
not enough money.
The contract is actually more than that. The number that we've budgeted in the past has been an average of what the actual expenditure has been. It varies based on migration. Some years are lighter than others. The more migratory birds that try to settle on Lake Auburn, the more effort it takes to keep them out of the lake. So it fluctuates from year to year, and the number that we've carried in the budget has been, you know, a 3-year running average of our costs, and we try to anticipate it that way. There might be a better way to do that. The direct oversight of the goal management program is the watershed manager, Erica Kidd. She's a shared employee, so she does report to myself and Kevin, and we do stay up to date. We get reports on how that's going and what's going on. Right now is the busy time of year, the fall migration.
And they're already 1433 over budget.
Yeah, a lot of this is the timing of the billing. But yeah, your questions are good, Bob. I will pull a report on this, and I'll plan to have that for you folks to review on how that's going right now.
Thank you. There's no big rush on it, because this just, it seems to be a can.
It's a good question.
Every year it keeps getting
it is
kicked
in
down the
some-
road.
Do we have to adjust the budget in some way?
But the other thing I noticed is, the budget for 2024 has on page 1 of,
Hold on, we're not on the
that when we
budget.
get
okay, but I just want to reiterate that it has not been increased. It's still 63,320. And 63,320 is not, because 63,320 is twice the 126,640 if Lewiston pays 50 and we pay 50. It was 63,320 last year, this year, and it's still set for 63,320 in 2024.
Okay.
So we haven't increased the
All right,
budget.
point taken. Can
Okay.
we move on? We got a long day. We got a
Okay.
long meeting.
Okay.
Point taken. And legitimate and
Okay.
valuable.
options for that?
Yeah.
I mean, I assume nobody
But
wants
we're not on the budget.
to open that can of worms, but.
We are not on the budget right now. We're on financial update. We can.
I'll answer that when I give my report.
Thank you, Mike.
The only other thing I wanted to bring up real quick was the fact that we see the watershed, Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission. So I always thought that we set a budget and that's what we gave them. And that's the money they had for the year. And they couldn't ask for any more. That's it. And then if they needed more, they overspent, and the next year they increase their budget or they request for money. But I see that we have $14,000–15,000 this addition already over the 85 that we budgeted. So that means that they have carte blanche, that they spend money, they just pass it on to both Lewiston and Auburn. That's $30,000 between the two of them.
I'll fall back on one thing. We have been making some errors in our accounting, and we owe a credit back to the commission for overbilling that we have done. Until we reconcile our accounts, I don't know if I hold a lot of stock in some of these numbers.
Okay.
We were sending LOPCA bills, being the Water Pollution Control Authority, to the Watershed Commission, and the other ones vice versa. And our labor rates, we were charging the wrong labor rates, and it messed up all of our billing and accounting. We need to get the new financial company on board, reconcile those numbers, reverse those invoices, get the proper ones charged out. But you're correct in the practice. We approve the budget. They don't ask us for more. They have fund balances that they can draw from their own savings if they go over. They are proposing an increase for 2024, but we'll talk about that later.
Right.
But the overage is most likely an accounting mistake.
Okay. Hopefully we meet that slow at the end of the year.
Yep.
Good point, thank you, thank you. Anybody else, any other comments on the financial report? We've got budget stuff later on, which we're gonna have full discussion about. Okay, good, all right, thank you, appreciate it, Mike. Ratify the payment of bills,
I'd like to move to ratify the payment of bills.
okay? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Any
Any other-
questions? Mike took care of them.
great. Anybody else have any discussion or questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that is 5-0. And activity report update,
Yep.
Matthew.
All right, thank you. See the activity report, pretty normal. Things are starting to slow down. Construction season, we're at the end of that. A lot of our efforts for mains were put towards Taylor Pond, as well as we experienced a leak at Allied Road. Then moving on to gates, again, it's the end of construction season, final pavement's going on, which means we have to get out there and raise our gates and services.
Yeah, okay.
And that's
That's in your
reflected under
packet.
gates.
It looks
He's
like,
got a packet.
yeah,
Hydrants, pretty normal. We did install 2 new hydrants, one at Bentonville Park and one at Old Farm Hill. And new services, we had one added this past month. And then, services, we had some miscellaneous, checking the box, repairing service boxes, as well as inspection for locations and investigations for leaks. Meters pretty normal for the month, nothing stands out there. Station checks, as you can see, we spent about 44 hours this past month going to all of our stations at the water facilities, pump stations, storage facilities, trying to establish more proactive, getting out there and doing preventive maintenance on our facilities. Water quality calls. Just one water quality that was related to the Allied Road. When that leak came in, we did experience a loss of pressure, which we did issue a boil water order, which after repairing the main and sampling, that boil water order was lifted.
I just had one comment question. Stable Ridge, any progress on getting all that we need to take over the?
So they are next week turning on 2 more buildings are gonna be added to that booster station. They have 3 more buildings remaining that'll be added to that booster station. Once all buildings are on, we need to track costs for 6 months so that we can assess what the costs are to the district, and we can apply for a rate increase to just affect the users of that system. But if we did that now, it wouldn't reflect the full cost of what the full build-out of it would be. So I've been waiting for the full build-out.
I'm worried about that. We still haven't got the software or some sort of.
We have all of those items.
Everything is all. ready, so we
Everything,
have-
everything is been satisfied to this
Okay.
point.
Correct.
So that, I did make a push on that, and we've gotten everything that we had originally required.
Was that you were waiting for like a backup item?
I was waiting for a software backup, so it's basically the program that runs the pump station. If that were to crash right now, we did not have the software then to reload in there to run it.
Yeah.
We would have to go buy a new controller, rebuild the whole thing and do it, but now we have the software and we could just load in. We have the proper permissions that we can work on it and set it up. So we're
And when
good.
we see, when you're talking about what you're gonna propose for the rate increase, all the expenses, we'll be able to see that before.
We're gonna pull together an expense sheet of what it costs us, electricity, generator maintenance.
Future repairs and.
Yes, is everything that we can put into that, we will put into that. Yep.
Mike, how hack-proof is everything within that building?
As hack-proof as everything in our system. It has all of our
So all linked up?
network, it's on our network.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
all right, is that it?
Yeah, that's it for now.
All right, great, thank you, Matt. All right, so that's gonna move us now. We have now a public hearing. Public hearing is to review proposed amendments to the bylaws for the protection of Lake Auburn, Level 1 intake, and the Level 1 intake restricted zone, and to review revised watershed boundary map. So, public hearing, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna allow members of the public to comment. And
Just gonna hit that so we can see this a little better. If you'd like, I'll give kind of a summary of what we're gonna
Okay.
go over here.
Yeah.
So we've got, as Steve said, we've got two things to discuss here. We've got the Lake Auburn watershed boundary map, which also shows the watershed protection zones within that boundary. This has been
It's in the pack.
I got it.
an incredibly long process over the last year and a half to 2 years. It actually was about a year ago today that myself and city staff and staff from the Lewiston Water Division walked the Grace Lawn Pit with the drinking water program, and we were trying to understand the topography and the groundwater flows and how they travel and which direction they travel. We then worked with CDM Smith and the drinking water program and all of those entities to conduct a study, pulled all the available information, all the groundwater testing data from the generations of work in the pit, in the surrounding landfills around the pit, the watershed work that had been done in the past. All of that information was pooled together into one 3D visualization model. It was a pretty cool process. They were able to put it up in this 3D model, and you could see the depths of the test wells, you could see the depths of the ledge, you could see the flow of water with this model. It was determined through that analysis that a large area that it was currently in the watershed could be removed from the watershed because the groundwater and surface water do not flow towards the lake. Again, this was an interactive process that we did with the drinking water program. They were present at our presentation from CDM Smith. We then submitted to them the final report. The drinking water program back on September 5th of 2023, they approved the redelineation based off of that study. We then formed, the Auburn Water District formed a water quality ad hoc committee with our partners at the Lewiston Water Division, the City of Auburn, and the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission. And again, we looked at this redelineation, the approval of the drinking water program, and that group all unanimously agreed that a redelineation made sense. So here we are. We took the CAD file, the official GIS or GPS coordinate map. We've incorporated it into our mapping system, and we have redrawn the line, most specifically down here on the south portion of this lake. So the area in green is now out of the watershed. This is consistent with everything that's been approved. This map dated November 15th, 2023 is what we're here to discuss, to adopt this map as our watershed boundary and to tie this to our bylaws for the protection of Lake Auburn and post as our official boundary map. Through our discussion with our partners, we go to phase 2 of this public hearing, discussion of the language of the bylaws for protection of Lake Auburn. Because you're redelineating the watershed boundary, you run into a potential conflict with the watershed protection zone, specifically the Zone 1 protection area. That protection area used to go from the edge of the lake to the nearest roadway. Now that we're redelineating the watershed line from the roadway back to a more appropriate boundary, we're going to add language that brings that protection zone to the same thing. So we added language consisting of the shoreline of the lake upland to the closest roadway or to the watershed boundary if that is closer to the lake as depicted on the official map in the zone on file with the Auburn Water District as shown just previously. So by amending this language, it makes the bylaws consistent with the map, and the map is consistent with the approved boundary. So that's what we're here to discuss.
Great. So it's a public hearing, so as such, we have I'm gonna open it up to the public hearing. If you'd like to say something, please do, and say who you are, please.
I will do that. Stephen Beal, and I have seen the 3D visual presentation that CDM Smith did, read the attendant reports, and have been at all the Watershed Protection Commission meetings, and have reviewed the depiction of the map, which was originally done in a kind of a general line, but then was made much more specific with actual GIS data, which CDM Smith provided to both the Water District and to the City of Auburn. And I am in complete agreement, and the Grace Lawn petition group from last year, which opposed the city's line, which was way up close to the lake, and then which that ordinance was then repealed, that petition group supports this new line. And that was stated at the planning board meeting of the city last night, where the depiction of the new line was one of the issues that was part of new ordinance proposals, which the planning board passed a favorable recommendation on to take over to recommend to the city council at future council meetings. So I'm in agreement with that new watershed boundary line, which is just the redefinition of the watershed boundary and is a separate issue from the zoning of the city of Auburn, because the watershed district is an overlay zone on top of various underlying zones such as agriculture, resource protection, rural residential, low-density country, whatever.
Okay, terrific, thank you. And then there's no one else from the public, so I'm gonna close the public hearing, close the public discussion of that, and we're gonna move to trustee discussion. Oh, actually, prior to that, I'm gonna ask for a motion before we discuss it, correct?
Yep.
Or do I close the public hearing first?
You did just close the public
So I
hearing.
close the public hearing.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have the
Now I'm
motion.
gonna ask for a motion. The first motion I'm gonna ask for is the Auburn Water District adopts the official Lake Auburn watershed boundary and Lake Auburn watershed protection zone map dated November 15th, 2023, as presented in the board packet, inclusive of modifications mapped by CDM Smith in a technical memorandum dated July 31st, 2023, and accepted by the Maine CDC Drinking Water Program as a revision of the source water protection boundary by letter dated September 5th, 2023. By adopting this updated map, the district repeals the adoption of the amended watershed boundary in its vote of April 20th, 2022. Does somebody want to make that
Make
motion?
that motion?
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, Dan seconds it. Let's have any discussion on that from the trustees.
Certainly I'm in 100% favor of it, and I really think this board and everybody working hard on this deserves a bit of a kudos for sticking with this and making this happen. It's corrected an issue that's been going on for far too long, so I think it's a stellar day for that.
And I'm looking forward to more amendments to the Polar, which is a 30-year-old document, so.
Supposed to be done every 5 years, yeah. I would just comment that I think the issue is still in place. We still have an open gravel pit next to the lake, and it's the worst use of the land that we could possibly use. People are objecting to rational use of that and would come forward, and that's their obligation. But this is a step in the right direction, so I'm certainly in favor of it.
Steve, I listened to the planning board meeting last night, and there's discussion about making it general business, and this gives the developer the incentive to change it from that gravel pit problem to something better. So,
Unfortunately, this is only part of the gravel pit, so
Yeah.
you're still gonna have a working gravel pit.
in a landfill.
That's right, so, but that's another issue, has nothing to do with this motion, so without further discussion, I'm gonna ask for a vote. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, it's unanimous, so that's one. With that, we got another motion. And I'm gonna ask for a motion that the Auburn Water District amends the bylaws for protection of Lake Auburn to amend the delineation of the level 1 intake restricted zone by adding the following underlined language. Consisting of the shoreline of Lake Auburn upland to the closest roadway or to the watershed boundary, if that is closer to the lake, as depicted on the official Lake Auburn and Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Zone map on file with the Auburn Water District and the surface of the lake.
So moved.
Second.
Okay? Discussion on that? All in favor? Okay, that passes. All right. Yep, go
Sorry,
ahead. And
I was just gonna clarify that.
hold on, and I would like to introduce Mike Hodgins.
Just to clarify, the underlined portion of that language is in the record. We'll keep the written motion, just because as I wrote the motion, it refers to the underline. You didn't speak the underlined part.
Oh, yes.
And that's fine. And Mike, I'll also give you a note. Steve knows I took out a couple of words in the first motion.
Okay.
Because it was my bad drafting. I had a couple of extraneous words.
I'm gonna give her.
Okay, excellent, perfect.
That's
That's
the
one with the
That's with this crossed out, purple
couple
crossed out
Okay.
thing,
You'll
cross
notice
that out.
Steve did a good job when he read the motion on the first one. He did not read the ones I crossed out.
Right, correct.
That's all.
I try and do what I'm told.
That was all. That'll be.
Okay,
Well, thank you for your work, Mike.
yes,
Appreciate
thank you,
it.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
appreciate you making it.
This has been glad it went
Huge
well.
help through this whole
It's
process.
great over the phone, thank you, Mike.
Nice to see me in person. Though, right? Here we are now.
All right, so, with those motions, that takes us to,
Close the public hearing.
it's already closed. Yeah, we're on to old business and water quality update.
Thanks,
Mike, are you all set?
I'm all set.
Okay, you can leave.
I thought it was dismissed. You usually want to hang up.
You got a little meter in your pocket that you're gonna punch for us, or?
Something
When
like
he,
Okay.
when he gets home.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, right.
when you cross the Bangor line.
No. You've got a deal. I don't go for Bangor.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Mike.
appreciate it.
All right, water quality update. The water quality in the lake is actually, the turbidity has trended below average. The water clarity has been very good this fall. We did have our little peak at the end of August into September. The one concerning thing we've had this year is the low dissolved oxygen levels in the lake, to a low level that we haven't seen in a few years. Turnover did just occur this past Saturday, so that's a good thing. The entire lake mixes over. You now have plenty of oxygen down at the bottom levels of the lake. Things will continue to clarify as we go on, and we just hope for a early ice on at this point. So bring on the cold temperatures. So that's what I got.
You mentioned yesterday there was, lake turning was anytime.
Yeah, it was
Anytime,
this
cool.
past Saturday.
Anytime.
Looking at the
Saturday.
data, and you can see it on the charts that the lake, you can actually see it, the little turbidity spike, and you can see it in the dissolved oxygen levels coming into our intake into the facilities. It turned over Saturday.
Cool,
Thank you.
that's cool. All right, 2024 projects, this is a little, are you gonna do a
Yes, we're going to do this
here, Matt?
presentation. I know we've
Sure.
got a lot going on, but
We're doing good on time, so this is important stuff.
all right. So I want to give a little preface before Matt starts. You get the pointer. Before Matt starts on this, you know, as I mentioned, we're working on our 2024 budget. We're working with the cities. We actually met with the city engineer and their project manager today. They actually came here. We sat down, had a great discussion. We actually looked at part of this presentation. There is a pile of work, construction work, coming to Auburn in 2024, a pile. There's going to be, every corner of the city is going to get dug up, from replacement of Lewiston's transmission main to Center Street getting repaved, Court Street's going to get paved going up over this hill, parts of Minot Ave. There's going to be reconstruction work on both sides of the city, New Auburn and into Auburn. There's going to be a lot going on. Matt and I are trying to figure out how do we do all of this. And that's part of what we're going to get into this presentation. Something that's I've been a real focus of mine the last 4 or 5 years, project planning, project estimating, I will tell you, this has been very difficult the last 3 years. The inflation and the increases in costs, from material costs to installation costs to aggregates and all that, has just gone through the roof. The last 2 years, we've gone over budget on projects because even though I take the cost from the previous year and I add 30%, it isn't enough. They exceed what we try to plan. So I'll leave it into this. Matt can run from here. So.
Sure. If you don't mind, I will just drive.
All right. I think you can flip it back.
Oh, can I?
Yep. Go left and right there.
Is that on? It is on.
It's not.
There it goes. Just wanna-
It holds your mouth right, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, as Mike mentioned, this is capital project planning, and what we did was we looked at what our experience was from 2022, 2023, and then we reached out to at least a half a dozen different utilities to see what their experience is, and to see what they're planning on for budgetary costs. So we'll look at Vernon Grove area in Second Street for our capital projects that we did in 2022 and 23. Then we'll move on to the main utility capital costs, looking at what utilities in the area are experiencing. And then we'll talk about, as Mike mentioned, the city of Auburn. There's a lot of work coming next year. City projects as well as DOT projects. And then there's always the Lumen LCRR, Lead and Copper Rule revision, which will go into effect October 16, 2024. So we need to plan for that as well. So we'll get right into it. Vernon Grove area. So here's what we have here. Here's all the streets that we did here. Here are with the quantities, what we had budgeted, and the date that they were completed. So you can see in 2022 over here, we had $397,000 budgeted for this project. Our actual cost was $353,000. In 2023, we budgeted $162,500, and our actual cost was just under $81,000, for a total cost of $434,000. Now, if you look at how many linear feet we did, and we divide that by the cost, our cost per foot here is approximately $173 per foot. And that little asterisk there, it says, it does not include cost of equipment. So when we've been budgeting our projects, we haven't been budgeting in the cost of dump trucks, excavators, loaders. So that's something that we need to take into account.
Well, that's something that I had asked for a while ago, was to please put the employee costs, the equipment costs into our, so we can compare to our internal use compared to using an outside company.
I used your name last night. You were the reason why we started charging our labor, because we never used to charge that to projects. Another area that I've been concerned that we don't budget for is our dump trucks. We own 3 dump trucks. We own that big excavator. We own a backhoe. We own a loader. We own the compactor. All of those things cost us a lot of money to own and maintain, and we don't charge them to the projects where we're using them. So it makes our numbers, while it's, we did it for $173 a foot, well, we spent, $300,000 maintaining trucks and equipment, and, buying those assets. So,
And not only allocate,
350, not.
yeah.
yeah.
Matt, why do these numbers look like last night numbers? Sewer and water be different size pipe and
Sewer and water be different size.
These are the same numbers as last night.
It's the exact same sheet.
so this is sewer and water?
Yeah.
This is just a water project.
Just the
This
water?
was just a water project
Okay.
only.
So you're showing us the water project value?
Yeah.
So that, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same
So,
place.
Is that like 2-inch sewer
Right.
pipe? I'm like, all right, it's gotta be force main for one house.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah.
2 inches.
But yeah, I mean, not only for our project budget and our equipment and our labor, we need to be doing this for our operation maintenance too. For instance, if we have a leak
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
there
real
are costs
cost,
associated.
So these are just these projects, it's not the total capital improvement, you just
This is
grab
just
these
Vernon. He's
particular
gonna show you
projects.
another one.
Yeah, yep. So then Second Street, contractor on this was Gendron and Gendron. What we did, our involvement was we sourced the parts for this, okay? okay? Unlike the other project where we source the parts, but we also did the work. This was contracted where we just source the parts, temporary main. And then the scope of the project was to replace 720 feet of 6-inch cast iron and install 720 feet of 8-inch PVCO. What we had budgeted for that was $93,000, just under $94,000. Again, we supplied the parts. Outcome, we actually had installed 531 feet of 8-inch PVCO and 23 feet of 6-inch PVCO. Now, the reason why we didn't get 720 feet was there was conflict with the Mill Street restructuring project going on. So we started here by installing a gate valve and running up to Dunn Street. Now, our actual cost for this project was just under $184,000. Now, when you calculate that, the cost per foot was $332 per
That
foot.
included
Got a
the
question
parts.
too.
That's,
But
Yeah.
183 includes the
Yeah.
parts and
Yeah.
so that's the total project.
right.
But doing it outside, $332,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this includes a part with us sourcing it, this includes the installation from the contractor. When you meld both those together, this is what our cost
And that's
is.
a contract where they give us a bid and stick to the bid, or is
Right.
it pay as you go?
They give us the bid, stick to the bid. We do have the ability to adjust it, depending on what our experience is with the budget and other projects going on. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Andy, is if we wanted to change the footage like we did, we have the ability to do that in the bids
So
that
if it
go
was
out.
less, it should have been less than what they actually bid, because it was not.
Well, they bid per price foot.
Yeah,
They put in they
Oh,
bid
okay.
$70 a foot to put the
Yeah,
pipe in.
So it should have been less, like I mean.
It was
they
less,
did
yeah.
531, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
it would've been more if we
It would have
did
been more if we did the 720 foot. Yeah.
And Bob's got a question.
Yeah, okay, I think I got all of this, there's a lot going on there. But the actual cost, which is basically twice of what was budgeted, was only 531 of the 720 and only 23 of the 720? That costs almost twice of what the original project for 1,440 feet was?
For 720 feet. So
Twice,
what
it's
we
twice
still-
though, it's twice.
No, see, we needed to replace 720 feet of pipe, Bob. There was 6-inch in there, we were going to replace it with 8-inch PVC.
That's just, it's not 1,400 feet,
No.
it's 720 feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
We took out the 6-inch and replaced it with 8-inch.
okay, thank you, okay, that's what was,
Yeah, it's confusing, that is confusing.
okay, thank you.
But there are two things, but we did put in 23 feet of 6-inch.
I think what Bob
As
was
a-
trying to say is that it was
Right.
still double the amount.
Yes,
Less.
but
Right.
still,
Right.
it's still
Right.
It was more
pertinent.
than double, it was
Yes.
more
Oh, yeah.
like 70
The
or 80%
point is still,
difference.
the point is still accurate, yeah.
That's just why.
Yeah.
And what was the verdict, like, what was the reason?
Well, it was
Was
the,
it just under budget, like?
well,
under-
the cost of materials are way higher than what we had paid in the past. The actual cost of the pipe is running us between $50 to $80 a foot by the time you buy the valves, the fittings, the service lines. By the time the overall footage, that cost is way up. The cost to put the pipe in, the bid price for this was $70 a foot. So you're paying for them to put the pipe in, to bed the pipe at $70 a foot. And you look back at a project 3 years ago, the bid price was $25 a foot to put that pipe in. I mean, that's increased substantially. The added cost on this that we do incur too is putting the temporary water lines in. So we gotta hook temporary services up to all these customers, so when we kill the existing main, they still have water while we do this. That's something that we do in-house. Again, the actual cost shows all of that. You know, and it basically comes out at $332 a foot. That's the point we're trying to drive home, is the cost per foot is going up. The last project on Vernon Grove, was $173 per foot, but it didn't show our equipment costs. I think you factor in the equipment cost, you're a lot closer to this $332. The actual,
Yes.
what's it costing us?
Exactly.
But yeah, that's what we're trying to show. It's a lot more than what we've experienced in the past. I mean, we've budgeted $130 a foot for pipe for, that's the number we used to carry, and it's not gonna work.
So,
Okay.
moving on, looking at what, again, here are 5 different utilities: Greater Augusta, York Water, Kennebec, Portland Water, and Brunswick Thompson. Here's what they are experiencing and what they are budgeting per foot for main replacement in 2024. You see Augusta's budgeted for $450 a foot, York Water District $375, Kennebec Water $530, Portland Water $575, Thompson $250 feet. And these are based upon full contract prices for all costs: parts, materials, equipment, labor.
Now, all those have their own in-house workers, they do their own work, or?
It varies with all groups.
It varies. It seemed like, yeah, it seemed like a lot of these were subbed out, these were contracted out. And then in 2024, City of Auburn projects, we're looking at full reconstruction on 4th Street. For water, that means approximately 1,750 feet of 1-inch and 6-inch cast iron that was installed in the 1930s. Marion Drive, 900 feet of 6-inch cast iron cement line main that was installed in 1962. And then on 2nd Street, 280 foot of 2¼ inch cast iron cement line that was installed in 74. Water, that project is minimal impact. We just need to tie in the 1.5 inch of PVC that we directionally bored this year. Chestnut Street, we're looking at the replacement of 600 feet of 6-inch cast iron main that was installed in the 1936, and that Chestnut Street is part of the new PAL Center that the city is looking to rebuild. So those are full recon projects. Mill and fill projects, as Mike talked about earlier, the Worsted redundant line. Mount Auburn Ave, they will be going and doing mill and fill from BJ's to Turner Street, and then Spring Street between Elm Street and Court Street. So just the full recon, the water experience would be about 3,500 feet of water main. And looking at what other utilities are paying, look at what our experience was in 2022, 2023. You can do the math of between, looking at between $400 to $500 a foot. That equates to almost $1.5 million. Moving on to 2024 DOT projects. Court Street, DOT is going in, beginning at Union Street and extending north 1.82 miles to Minot Street. On Route 4, they're beginning at Veterans Memorial Bridge and extending north 1.45 miles. Route 4 beginning at Turner Street and extending north 1.45 miles. Where it really impacts us, it's not that total 1.45, but it's that 0.23 where we had the divided highway. And then Minot Ave, Court Street, and Route 11. This is essentially where the Washington Street mill and fill took place this year. They're going to be finishing off from there up to Court Street, and then out to out on Minot Ave, out to Long Lake Memorial Bridge. So as you can see, there's a pretty aggressive schedule between the state and between the city of Auburn. And lastly, we have the LCRR for 2024 that we need to plan for. And what we have here is, this is a district-owned asset, and here are the materials. UNK is for unknown material, GV is for galvanized, and lead is for lead service lines. So from what our records indicate right now, we're showing that we have potentially 39 lead service lines in the distribution system, 2 galvanized, and we have approximately 1,007 that we do not know the composition or material for. The LCRR, with the updates that came through, we're responsible for the public side, but we're also trying to work through the details of whose responsibility is for the lead. We're ultimately responsible for the water to the tap. So this is gonna create a lot of work for us. The way the LCRR works is, starting in January 2025, anything that is of known lead would be considered a tier 1 sample point. So they're gonna break it out in 5 different tiers. Tier 1 will be single-family wet with lead service lines. And the size of our distribution, the population that we serve, we're gonna have 60 points that we need to sample. So that means potentially, of those 60, 39 of those would be potentially known lead service lines. So it's important for us to plan, investigate, and potentially replace these lead service lines and the galvanized, because with the way galvanized defined is that it does not qualify replacement, so as you can prove out that there was never downstream of a lead service line. So if you can't prove that, then it goes into the lead bin. And then that's where it would become a tier 3. So tier 1 would be single-family lead service lines, tier 3 would be multi-family service lines and buildings, tier 3 would be your galvanized.
Tier 2 is multi-family.
Yes, yeah, and then your tier 4 would be single-family residence with interior copper piping with known lead solder, so anything from 82 to 86 when the lead and copper roll.
Up to the closest roadway.
No, not on this. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
It makes as much
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes as much
A little
sense.
watershed
Yeah.
humor, yeah.
So,
I listened to this last night too, so I can picture a lot.
yeah, so what we gotta do is, we really need to plan. This is gonna be a big part of this, because if we don't take steps to investigate and replace this lead, this will have ramifications on our corrosion control technique in the system, which can be
Well, one
very
question I had
expensive.
was, he talked about the district unknown, 107 amount.
1,000.
Those are lines, but we gotta know, they must have records going back.
Not on 1,007 of them. There's no record on the material type. It might say the size,
Yeah.
might give you the ties to it, but under what was the material type, it was left blank.
And that
So
would be
we
like
have to
the
leave it
whole-
blank.
When you say 1,000 lines, it could be a line that's half mile long, it could be a
No,
line.
these are services.
Yeah.
These are only
Yeah.
service lines.
Yeah.
These are service records to homes.
But district owned service lines?
We own from the main to the service box.
Okay, piggybacking on what Andy said, my understanding is our responsibility ends at the service box to this residence.
Correct, but as Matt stated, we own the water quality to the tap. So if
And the
there's lead, if there's lead in there,
the tap is
inside the
location?
home, your kitchen sink.
And the kitchen sink.
the kitchen.
Where you drink the water.
Why do we own it if our responsibility ends at
We
the,
own the quality.
We own the water quality. We're responsible if lead gets into someone's water, regardless if we own the pipe that delivered it there.
I mean, we got the deepest pockets.
So in the end, if we
So if
can't,
they choose
if we,
not to address it, we're
then
still
we,
responsible?
then we'll have to address treatment to make sure that lead doesn't get into that home. Either
It's a great
replace it
law.
or fix it.
No.
So it's, you know,
so we're not talking about replacing that lead line.
Yes.
from-
yes,
from-
Yes.
Replacing it for all the way inside of the taps.
potentially.
Yeah.
But the owner would
Okay.
be responsible if they could pay. And there's supposed to be some grant money available.
Not necessarily,
potentially.
there is gonna be a lot of grant monies available, but we don't fully understand that yet because the feds haven't rolled that out yet.
Right.
I don't see how they can expect us to have to.
It's the feds.
That's what I'm getting at. I
They
mean,
make the rule, they put the rule out.
Usually they come up with the money. They give us
Unfunded.
something, they come up with
unfunded rule. Yeah, they do it all the
Usually
time.
might be a stretch there.
Well, right now is
Yeah.
lead and copper rule revisions. After October 16th, 2024 is lead and copper rule improvements, and all of those new factors go into play. Like Matt said, the new sampling requirements, then there will be mandates on replacement at that time. We're not necessarily mandated to replace any of these between now and October of 2024, but if we don't and we report these we will be mandated on the sampling. Sampling could go either way. If you now start sampling lead services that we weren't before, and you start having lead hits, we're going to be looking at treatment changes. It gets very expensive from there.
Can we survey people or put out some information or notices for people that may have that information in their basement, in a file somewhere that shows when they built their house, if they're still living in the house that they built?
You're
for
absolutely
example?
right. That's all part of what we need to budget for and to do next year.
The other thing we gotta do, I would recommend that we budget for, is perhaps who's going to go after the grants. Because if we can get grants for all this, then it doesn't affect the budget. So we need to hire somebody to do that.
We're trying to figure out how are we going to staff this? How are we going to fund this? How are we going to do all this right now? It's going to be a pile of work just to do this, let alone all that other stuff we just showed you.
Just finding out.
We're working on that. My hope is that we're going to be able to, for our capital budget next year, we're going to be able to pie off at least $300,000 to dedicate towards this. It may need more. It may need that plus $500,000 of budget of grant monies to hopefully, whether we need to fund this for 2 to 3 years, we need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we gotta ask for a lot of money.
Yeah, and we're not gonna be the only one utility.
No, that's right.
All of them are gonna be doing it.
We gotta figure out,
Well, I hope we keep in close contact with other utilities. and
maybe
they-
that's something, if this group that's coming in to do the finances, if they know anybody that specializes in, or how, we should strategize, start talking, that's not for this meeting today, thank you for the info.
One question I wanted to bring up, we were going for.
No, that's okay,
I got
no,
one thing too.
that's good. As far as the lead thing, I think we're good on that, right?
We understand the scope.
Well, I got one
We
question about
understand
it.
that. Okay.
The orthophosphate that's in the water, isn't that supposed to be currently sealing sealing the lead pipe to protect the lead from getting into the residents' water?
Correct. And right now we
Exactly right.
sample Tier 1 sample sites, which is a different criteria than what Tier 1 will be after October of 2024. Right now, we're not necessarily sampling those that have 39 lead services. So while our product and our treatment is working that we found, we may find if we start sampling a more likely source of lead, the treatment may not be adequate,
Thank you,
given the lead service.
thank you. I know that orthophosphate was supposed to be doing a good job with it.
And we've been passing. Yep.
And that's where, the re-optimization of the system and our corrosion control technique become very expensive to do that.
Gotcha. So, so let's put that, is if you don't have enough things to do, we gotta find out where we're gonna get some money.
Yeah, and then also keep tabs on what's happening, especially with drinking water, the water organization that's on top of this, because this is a nationwide issue, this is not just Maine
This is
or
federal.
Auburn, this is federal.
Matt's been
nationwide.
attending a statewide meeting where the
Right.
drinking water program commissioner has been attending those meetings. Water utilities from all around the state are going to this. We've been
They have
We've been
to
going
understand
to-
When
the
you're
scope.
going to these, keep your ears open to see if you happen to find somebody that's a grant writer that we could hire.
Yes,
If anybody else has had success,
Well, because we ever get to the point where we need filtration, it'd be nice to have,
exactly, let's think about, we need someone that knows how to get federal grants.
and get someone before someone else gets them.
Exactly.
so one question I had on the feet, 3,500 feet, that's what we're proposing for next year? So
Well, that's what's in front of
That's
us
what's in front of us.
with the city
Are we
project.
gonna try to do the mile a year, or are we still gonna try to?
I don't know how we can at the numbers that we're looking at $350 to $500 a foot. Just doing that is gonna be $1.5 million. That's gonna exceed what we have, and that's not gonna leave any money for LCRR. I don't know how we're gonna do, we may have to say we can't do the 3,500 feet because we don't have enough money unless we look to bond more to
Well,
do.
5180, right? 5180?
We talked about not raising rates,
Mile?
but,
5280?
If you carry,
5280, right? 5,000.
yes, 5,280 feet.
And all or most of the 3,500 feet is going to be contracted out, right?
Well, depends on how those projects get bid.
It's
but yeah.
500
There-
a foot.
there's a lot of things-
$2.6 million
just
Just to do a mile.
Just to
Just to
do
do
it.
it.
At how many?
at $500 a foot.
500 bucks a foot.
That's 5,000 feet? or-
5,000 feet at $500 is
Yeah.
2.6, well, 5120 is 2.6 mil.
I mean,
Nuts, isn't it?
I think we gotta look at.
Good thing we put that, good thing we got that
I
grant.
mean, I know
Rate
we talked
increase
about-
and or bonding.
We bonded that money so that we didn't have to do a rate increase, but then all of a sudden, of course, the S hit the fan on what it costs to do
By
stuff.
division.
Nobody could ever figure that that was gonna happen. So, I mean, we gotta worry about the financial viability of our district,
Absolutely.
regardless of whether I don't like an increase. I don't want one either, but it looks like we got so much up against us, we may have
Yeah.
to put that on the table either for 2024 or 2025.
Yep.
'Cause we're
And we're
running out of
lucky
money
we have the cash to be able to
to weather it.
evaluate what is the best step
But
forward.
that's not
for
gonna
us at
last
this
long
point.
at what you're talking about,
Right.
Rick, especially if we're gonna go below a mile. Now we're paying so much more and still going below our goal, and all that old pipe is still getting old.
Still there, and it's still breaking and cracking, and we're still dispatching people at midnight.
But not many breaks lately, though.
Do you have a
Well, we-
ballpark
no.
estimate of what
Don't say that,
the lead thing's gonna cost, just a?
I do not
Shot in
have
the dark.
I don't have a shot in the dark. I think, I told Matt, I don't care what we do, we've got to take, right now, we've got $1 million in this budget set aside for capital work. My no holds bars, I'm not going below 300,000 just for LCRR. We've got to, and then figure out how we do, or what can we do with that, with the remaining
Yeah.
funds that
We
we have
can't-
set aside.
You can't spread it out over multiple years, it's a requirement to address.
We were gonna have to, we're not gonna get that whole list of
So the new
stuff.
sampling starts in January 2025. So right now, we're on reduced monitoring, which requires us to sample 30 sites every
2 years.
2
What
years.
law was this? Do we know what law this was, or is this just a regulation that was passed down?
It's a,
It's a revision of
a law revision.
Yeah.
So it came from an agency, not a legislature, it was, it's
yeah.
a revision.
Yeah, EPA, yeah.
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 So
Okay.
does our, get a hold of our local contingency too, they know about this, or senators?
Oh, everybody's
Yeah.
buzzing about this. Yeah, no, there's actually been a lot of build up to this for the last couple of years, and they
We had a
finally,
briefing on this last year.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've been,
Yeah,
I know, yeah, but Colin should know that this is impossible. What they're asking us to do is impossible.
But you're guessing 300K, I'm just saying, like, if you're just.
okay.
So to put
Put
it
out
in,
maybe 200, like, if you say,
So-
we're gonna do 200 and then cap it. You
So-
can't do that, they won't.
it's
You're
too,
not meeting the
I don't
requirements?
have enough information.
We don't have enough,
Yeah.
Jason, that's a great question,
It is.
but we know what we know at this point, and for the sake of this meeting, can we not go, I've asked that we don't go down any more, the rabbit hole any farther. I
Yeah.
appreciate the information, gentlemen, and we're at the extent of what we know at this point, right?
Yep.
Jason, it's it's good questions.
It is very good.
But I'm just saying, one thing to make clear is even if we had the money, you guys couldn't do a mile of pipe anyway, right?
I don't know how we could with just those DOT projects alone, that's gonna be hundreds of gate valves
Yeah,
that are
looking
gonna have
at
to be
the-
raised and adjusted and,
Yeah, and he was talking about on the other ones, there's, how many did you say, 52 manholes?
so to just put it in perspective, we're looking at hundreds of manholes that need to be adjusted. And for a manhole to be adjusted, it takes 2 staff members.
For a day.
And with nothing going, if everything goes right for a day, you get approximately 4 manholes done. Now you do the math on that, that's 50 days for
That's
2
within a 50 number ones, right?
for 2 staff members to do that. That's not including gates, that's not including service boxes, there's a lot more there going on. And then now looking at our capital projects, looking at our O&M projects, because we have infrastructure that we need to maintain that we have right now. Making sure we're getting out to our facilities, making sure that we have people available for that normal day-to-day stuff that goes on, a leak, a service box that needs a repair, or a service valve that needs to be replaced. So yeah, there's a lot of considerations that need to be factored into what we do, and looking at our corporate goals and what feasibly can be done with the resources we have right now.
That's fast work, 4 manholes a day adjusting.
Yeah.
They're not wasting any time.
No. Yeah. And that's just at 200. I think we probably will have more than that with the amount of work that we have. And that's just considering manholes. And that work isn't easy. Contractors are out there, they're on their schedule, and they don't always, give us appropriate amount of notification to get this stuff done. So, yeah.
All right, so I think is everyone comfortable with the projects and what the goal of this presentation at this
Yeah.
point? Okay. Let's, because we got the budget, so.
We got a bunch of stuff here that I
Yeah.
still want to get to, a lot of important stuff.
Do we want to run through this other stuff first?
Yeah, we can.
Get it out, get it over with, and we finish with the
Yep.
budget, and that way if we have, so I'm gonna go ahead and make that we're gonna just move to, we already know the contracted
Yep.
financial services, everyone good with that?
Hmm.
Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Adam, Andy, do you need that?
Yep, no, I
Okay.
got it down, yep.
Okay, let's go on to the new business then, health insurance?
All right, health insurance options. The district has been with Cross Insurance now for the past 5 years. We had made the switch from Maine Municipal. It's been very beneficial to the district. We've seen a cut in our insurance premiums. The coverage has been very good, and it's been a good relationship. The last 2 years, if you remember, for 2022 and for 2023, we had rate hold, 0% increase in health insurance costs, which is pretty incredible. This year, we're looking at a 5% health insurance increase. I was told by Cross that we were their lowest increase of all the customers that they serve, at least out of this office here in the Lewiston area. There were many systems and businesses that saw increases in the 15 to 20% range. Because of the health and our usage history here at the district, we are in a very good experience mod, and our numbers are very low. So a 5% increase. There would be one option that we could consider if we wanted to switch to a higher deductible plan, a PPO 3000. Unfortunately, that would increase our exposure if we did have a year where there was, we do fund our HRA. Luckily, our experience has been low. We would still see a 1.4% increase, but given our exposure and the amount that we'd have to set aside to cover that, to me, I don't think that that's an option we need to take right now, given we're only looking at a 5% increase. I did look at Maine Municipal. They had a press release with their 2024 rates being announced. Again, we're in our PPO 2000 plan with Cross. They don't offer an across-the-board plan. They have a $1,500 and a $2,500 deductible plan. But you can see if we were in one of those, we would be seeing a 5% or a 7.5% increase.
Yeah, municipal was not a good plan when we were on it. I didn't
No.
think that long.
The coverage has been better through Cross. They're both Anthem plans. Also, their premiums with these increases are much higher than what we're paying now. So if we made the switch, we would be automatically paying more than we would if we just go with the 5% increase. Being my first year in this seat as superintendent, I guess I was not aware that we had done this in the past, but we do need to sign a contract. They're looking at me to sign this as soon as possible. I told them we had this board meetings this week, and then I wanted to get the approval of the boards. But we do need to make a decision on, starting to pull these together for next year.
Anybody have any comments on this? Or any?
Just that sewer last night proved it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we
we
had
approved
2
it
years
last
with
night.
no increases, and then 1 year with 5, and if you average of 3 years, that's still not bad. We'll have to look at next
So-
year, but this year,
Can I have a motion to approve this?
I make a motion that we stay with our current cross insurance and accept the 5% increase.
Second?
Second,
All in favor? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Then we move to the incentive plan.
Yes,
review.
back in 2022, again, the economy was very tough, the job market was really tough. This board voted to look at what the COLA was that year, which was roughly a 6% COLA. We took that money, we set it aside in addition to the COLA as we had talked about maybe an incentive or retention bonus style. We wound up putting into effect this retention bonus that first year, which was $3,200 per employee. We again went with that for 2023, but we went with a $2,000 retention bonus. When I look at these programs, while they're great and they've been effective, we really haven't, while I know we've had some turnover recently with our finance director role, we have not had a lot of turnover through COVID and through this labor shortage. We've done a great job of retaining our employees, continuing to get work done. I think these have been effective. One thing that, I have always wanted to work towards, the work that we do is very specialized work. We need to be licensed to do the work that we do. I am a grade 4 water treatment and water distribution system operator, as is Matt. All of our employees here who need to make a change in quality or quantity of flow have to be licensed per the classification of the system, or they have to work under somebody's direct supervision who is. Our number of employees who are licensed is very low, respectively, meaning that there are many people here who aren't licensed, and they need to be directly supervised. It is in everybody's job description that they get licensed, but it's not been something that's been upheld over the years, and people have, they're not licensed. That is something that I've wanted to change, and I think by going with this incentive program, it'll give some incentives towards getting that. It'll help with retention. It'll give people avenues where they can continue to work outside of water licenses. This is going to be across the board. It's not just for operator types. It's going to be for the office staff, for our GIS staff, for our sewer staff. There's incentives on all of those things. I just put together a very small list. The thought is that they would go through an educational process. They would show that they met a certain certification by either taking a test or passing certification. They achieved a status within that program. We can then add that, and you get a welding certificate. You get your Class A license instead of your B. Those can all be incremental increases up to $2,000 per employee. I think it's just going to make us a better organization and still provide that little incentive.
I agree. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, of the $2,000, everyone gets $1,000 of the $2,000 without doing an incentive, is that right?
That is incorrect. To get the $1,000, you need to meet your job description.
Okay.
So if your job description says that you need a CDL, you need your sewer license, you need some other level of certification, if you meet those things, you will automatically get the $1,000 stipend. If you've gone above and beyond your job description, maybe you needed a grade 1 sewer and you got a grade 3, you will get incremental steps for getting that further certification.
Is the goal going to be for each worker to attain that second $1,000 goal?
I hope that everybody is able to attain that, but I'll tell you, it's not going to be. This is not going to be a 100% payout. This is not going to be a 50% payout. There are many folks that have a lot to work towards to be able to get this. This is not going to be we're not just going to pay out $2,000 to every employee, and this may take 2 to 3 years for this to get to a full payout as they work towards getting these certifications.
So how many employees will be in the incentive bonus program?
Every employee.
Everybody. How many is that?
25.
25.
Yep.
Because if we can look in the payroll summary within the budget on the incentive bonus.
Okay.
We are in the payroll summary, incentive bonus. Ideally, that would be 25 times 2,000 if we maxed it out, right?
$50,000, yeah.
But in the incentive bonus, I only see 16,000 for
Because that's sewer.
2024.
That's sewer.
That's just sewer.
And that's based
Okay,
off
I'm
of the
sorry,
number
okay,
of
sewer.
sewer
Okay, let's
employees.
go. So,
16
well,
and
okay,
34 for water.
I see 34.
That's
How many are water?
16 and 34 is 50,000. That's $2,000 times 25 employees.
People do both jobs.
Okay,
Some people are water, some people are sewer, some people are water sewer.
okay, I just wanted to make sure that we had enough money in that
We put
budget to meet that.
in your draft
$2,000.
budget, I was presumptive, but I put this in.
You know,
We can remove it. We
Okay.
can remove it.
Right.
But
So,
it's-
are we
it's in
good?
Yeah, thank
So,
you.
because
Well-
we can get,
Yeah, one real question, I'm assuming then that what's gonna go is that instead of having a flat 50,000 a year that we're throwing into this, like guaranteeing everything, we will, as people get to that level, we're not gonna keep, you got your 2,000 because you did everything this year, but we're gonna give it to you again next year because you maintained those numbers.
well, then they're gonna get 1,000 in the next year because.
Because I really think with COLA, salary studies, we get everybody where they belong, and the incentive bonus may not be needed anymore. And that was only supposed to be a temporary, through the COVID crunch, work shortage. It wasn't supposed to be an ongoing
Right.
program.
No, I understand that. The certifications that we have, they require maintaining them. Like with my license, I have to go to 24 hours of training every 2 years to maintain my license. I want people to maintain their license and to keep that, and I would think at the bare minimum, we keep the 1,000 for meeting their job description. This is something we're gonna have to evaluate, and depending on how the board wants to go, you may want to increase this in years, you may want to decrease it.
We also don't want to get people so, you know, licensed up that they become attractive to somebody else.
Right.
And they come throwing a bunch of money
But
at them.
I'm just saying, I want to make sure we retain employees, but we
Yeah.
quickly come to the point where we're overcompensating. And that's
It's a valid point. I think that's something that we want to
Point
evaluate
taken,
as we
yep.
go. Yeah. Thank you.
But I like the performance side of it. I think that's an extremely great step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish COLA was like it. It's not automatic 3%. You did a good job, here's your 3%. Or, well, you didn't do such a great job, it's only 1.5%.
Yeah.
Do better next year.
So are we all in favor of this?
Yeah,
So we got a motion to accept this?
Chair, I'll make a motion to continue the employee incentive plan as presented tonight.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in
It's not-
favor?
It's not done yet, right?
Well, if you vote on it, this plan will be effective.
Okay, so amend my motion to accept the employee incentive plan as presented tonight.
Yeah, that's what we did, and we voted.
All in favor? Jason, are you in, or not?
I don't wanna hold it up, go ahead.
Well, what's the
What's your
objection?
vote? Down,
I think we need to talk about it more. I don't-
sustain, or?
I think we're,
up?
I mean, is this a budget item that we're talking about? Because we're gonna go to the budget
No, it's the
discussion
incentive
next.
plan.
We're
Are you
approving-
against it or
We're approving
for?
this budget line item, though, is what I'm
No.
asking.
No, we're approving the incentive plan.
Now,
As
when we move the
presented.
budget, we can talk about how much we budgeted. whatever.
He put it in the budget, but we're not doing on the budget now. We're approving, do you agree or not agree with
I
that
agree with the
plan?
plan, but
Then
the
that's
dollar
fine.
amount, I think we need to have a discussion in
Well,
the
that-
budget.
that'll be in the
context, so we
budget.
see.
Yep.
Fine.
But
Yeah.
you're in favor of
Yes,
an
the plan.
incentive plan as a whole?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So
Then,
so it's unanimous.
unanimous,
Yes.
right, okay. Now, that moves us to the handbook? Is that-
Yes, Personnel Policies and Procedures Handbook Updates. As you all,
IP.
yes, as you all know, we had some personnel issues there this year that we worked through. While working through those with our legal representatives, we discovered that we had some holes in our personnel policy manual that opened us up to some liability. So while we looked to update those, we noticed that the entire plan had not been updated for a number of years. So we asked, it was cheap money, look at the whole plan and tell us, what needs to be updated. Just small things. Page 4, we need to have a workplace lactation policy, just in case somebody does have a child, they need a place to do that. So we added that per state law. One thing that we looked at, this has been a source of contention here for a while, when employees are called back, it used to be held to they would only get 2 hours minimum if they came in between midnight and 5:30. So that's to say you leave here at 3:30, at 4:30 p.m. you get called back, you're only paid for the time that you actually work when you get here, which doesn't account for the time of you leaving your home or when you get back to your home. When employees may get called back here for an hour, and it doesn't necessarily compensate all the time that they've been away. We do give a 2-hour minimum from midnight to 5:30. We'd like to extend that 2-hour minimum to all callbacks. So we've added that. We did also add a remote response policy to cover those employees who can dial into our SCADA system from home. That way you don't hit automatically with a 2-hour call-in. You can do that incrementally in small amounts where you're not actually leaving home to address or look into a problem. A few years ago we did add Juneteenth, but we never adopted that into our personnel policy manual, so just added that in. Matt and I have been looking closely, particularly Matt has been looking at our time off and our use of that. We don't have a lot of teeth if we suspect that somebody is abusing sick time, so we did add some language that was consistent with other districts to give us a little bit more ability to manage our sick time usage. Last year we brought this up, parental leave. We added a maternity leave of paid 4 weeks. That is actually illegal. Family Medical Leave Act does not allow you to discriminate between the paternal or the maternal in the birthing or adoption of a child. So if we're going to offer a paid time off, it has to be for parental leave, not for just the mother. So that is a Maine state law. So we did add that. Next thing, our clothing allowance. It's not very often that the employees come to me and ask for something. We meet every Monday morning here, right in this room, with all the staff out of this office, and we talk about, Matt runs this meeting. He goes over projects we did last week, what we're doing next week, and what we're doing out through the end of the month. We also open it up, what else is going on, guys? And they kind of brought this to our attention that our clothing allowance, which of $500, which has been in place for well over 12 years now, is no longer adequate to cover the clothing needs for our staff. Again,
That includes boots too, right?
that includes boots. That includes pants, jackets, winter jackets. They buy everything with it as long as they follow our clothing policy. When you think we work in 4 seasons, from the hot days of the summer in the mud and the trenches, in construction.
Just boots, you gotta go. $500.
And 2 a year,
They-
it's steel toed, spring, summer, fall,
I
and
gotta
winter.
think at least 2 a year.
The average person, this is what they brought to me, the average person in here is going through 2 pairs of boots a year. That's the $500. In reality, to buy a good pair of boots that protects your feet, that's where it's at. They asked if that could be increased. They did not come up with a dollar amount. I looked at what Lewiston's doing and what the Water Pollution Control Authority are doing. They're both doing $750. So I put it at $750. So that's what I put in here for now. I did update the water operator license requirements. The requirements that were in our policy were antiquated and didn't match the job descriptions. And then we did we did put in there, it hasn't been adopted yet, a vehicle use policy. Again, outlining an employee's responsibilities when using district vehicles. So yes, those are all the changes that have been made to the personnel policy manual.
They've already been changed.
Before
They've
we,
been put in there in its draft. The sewer budget district did vote to adopt those changes, but these aren't.
so we can talk about it, let's have a motion to approve.
I
the
move
budget.
that we approve all these items.
Okay. Did I second? Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, second, so discussion, I know there's some discussion on this.
Yeah, I only have one concern, and it's not the $250 addition for, for the clothing. But we've done everything to elevate employees. Again, COLA, incentive bonuses, salary studies, all this stuff to make sure that we are at or above our competition. And now we're gonna max out all the fringe benefits above that. Now, I've always believed that, people go to a place because, well, they don't pay as much, but the benefits are good. And vice versa. Well, they pay a lot better, I don't worry about the benefits because I get paid more. So if we're gonna max out all of our salaries and max out everything we're gonna pay them, and then also max out all of the fringe benefits, I think we're double dipping. I mean, I understand maybe not enough, but all right, you're making enough money, can you buy your own boots? Or no, you're not making enough money. You guys don't pay me enough, so I need this uniform allowance because you're not paying me enough. What's the rationality except to simply raise a policy and 250 is nothing except times 20 or 30 employees?
I understand your concerns, and yes, we have done a lot here. I feel like we offer a good package to our employees.
I've been proud of what we've done. I've given in to a lot of things because I figured, what the heck, we want to pay what we can.
I don't feel that we pay, when we did our salary survey, we didn't pay the maximum amount. We wanted to be right at average, if not a little bit above average for the industry. That's what we directed that wage study to do, right? So we're not, maximum pay.
Except that
Our benefits are consistent with what the other entities in this area offer, and comparatively to our size. I feel like we're right there. We're right along with average, and it unfortunately everything is increasing. Everything increases. And I don't know how to combat it other than we got to keep up with it. And I understand.
About 2 years in a row, we've given $3,000 bonuses to people. That was over and above any COLA.
I understand that. Yeah.
And still, that's not enough to buy a pair of boots.
I don't want to see clothing expenses have to come out of the workers' personal money. And
Well, but
they need these to do work.
But if you give a guy $3,000 bonus this year and say, but you gotta buy a $100, $200 pair of boots.
But what,
Would
I
you
think
rather
we're
take
talking
that or
apples
give-
and bananas
No,
here, though.
Well, we could not do the retention bonus and give them, we can max that out to 1,000 for uniforms and not give them the
Well,
3,000.
I can understand your position, I don't,
I just think,
I think it's,
I know, I'm,
So, can I just have the floor for just a sec? So
Sure.
Andy, Bob, and I'm sure Jason would want to tune into this too. We gotta think not to micromanage what's going on here.
right.
Look
What
at
you
the-
said.
No, the macro part is, you're talking about two new guys at new positions. You're talking about finance, all in a pit right now because we got this new company started and we just gotta support these two. And if he's put all his work into what we're at so far, let's just support these guys. And they had 12 months to come up with savings. And next year, they're gonna have some great ideas and they're gonna be some more savings. But as of right now, geez, because of everything that's happened with the district, I'm in favor of this stuff and what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, just let her go.
All in favor? Yeah. Okay,
One opposed.
one opposed. One opposed. Sorry.
Great, thank you for that.
All right, so that gets us to,
Did you want to do public comment?
yeah,
In case Steve wants to
that's what I was gonna do, public comment, to see if Steve has anything else he wants to say.
One quick question. The Auburn Planning and Permitting Department has a practice whenever they get an application to perform or conduct some kind of activity in the watershed that looks to them like it might be problematic from a water quality point of view, that it's referred here to the district. And not too long ago, there was a reference for somebody who came in with a proposal to do a beef farm off the Blanchard Road, up off Route 4. There's a little pond over the back of the hill
Blanchard
where
Pond,
John
yep.
Reeder's house used to be, and water doesn't have too far to go from there to Lake Auburn. So what is the status of that referral?
That never came forward, an organized plan never got submitted.
They never did submit a
Nope.
formal
Nope.
actual plan?
No,
Okay.
they did not.
So it died on the vine?
It failed to apply.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, good, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's, we got the budget stuff now.
All right, your draft 2024 budget. Kind of give some highlights when we go down through this. On your first page, when you look at your revenues, again, we always assume a 0% growth or increase in.
Can I actually just want to make one
Yep.
comment, and I want to kind of agree and piggyback off of what Dan said, where I tend to agree that I think in principle, we as a board should be approving initiatives. If Mike comes forward and says, this is in context, this is an incentive plan I'd like to do, if it's a good idea, we approve it. If it's a bad idea, we don't approve it. But we should be beating them up on the money in the budget process, not micromanaging each thing that comes forward, like for $250 here, or
Now, that was
is
a
it
slam, I haven't come on that.
well, no, I was commenting, Jason as well, and it wasn't intended to be a slam, but I think that as a board, that I do think that this is where we now should be beating them up on numbers. And in our financial reports and all that sort of thing, so that's, and it wasn't intended to be a slam, I apologize if you took it that way.
Well, because the 250 was a policy.
Well,
written
I was
down in
also,
policy,
I
you have to
said
do
the
it.
incentive plan, and Jason was gonna get to the point of how much the incentive plan
Once it's
is.
written in the policy, we gotta do it, so it's in here, we gotta take something else out, but once it's in the policy, we have to do it. It's no budget, now it's no longer talked about during the budget process. Once you approve it in the policy procedure manual, it has to be done.
But figures can be flexible.
But, yeah.
Well, you have to
because
take something
what
else away,
Steve
you give them
said,
this.
yeah, if we say beat them up on the total, then they may come back and say, you know what, I'm gonna rethink one of these lines, so I think you get your points.
I think just as trustees, as our response, this is, just like, this is our responsibility. and general policy approval, so. Sorry,
Yes,
go
no,
ahead.
no, that's point well taken, thank you for that. Again, we assume a 0% increase in total metered water sales, so that's what we've assumed here. Again, rents on properties, other revenues, interest income, merchandise and jobbing, public fire protection, we just assumed a, 0.3% increase on those. There is a lot of growth going on. There is going to be increases in jobbing and that type of stuff. I see that coming with the addition of more apartment buildings up on the top of the hill here and on Mount Auburn Ave, and then potentially with this redelineation, could be seen by the end of 2024 if things go through. Now down to your expenses, after you get through revenues, payroll, again, this is your draft budget. The CPIU came out at 3.2%, so that's what I've carried in the budget here. Employee benefits, that does reflect the 5% increase in the health insurance with Cross Insurance. UV plant, that assumes, the cost of chemicals is what's driven that UV budget up. The number that we carried last year was good, and that's consistent with what we're seeing for this year, so that's going to remain at that level. Again, your chloramines and your laboratory staying consistent with what we budgeted in those in the last 3 years. It's what we've always done, is done like a 3-year running average. Your transmission and your distribution systems, again, that number's been growing, as we see cost increase, across the board with the different expenses, maintaining our systems.
This is just maintenance, this is not new pipe. This is
Correct. This is where you see your water main breaks and your incidental repairs of the system in the transmission and distribution.
That increase, maintenance of mains.
Yes.
From 21 to 23, we're looking at a 110% increase or something like that, 120% increase.
It's hard to understand.
Yeah.
The one that's really big, I do want to dig into that goal management. I will prepare a rundown on that, and I will have that available for you. I'll try to send that to you before the next meeting.
What does the administration include?
The administration, that does include, I believe there's a breakdown on administration on 2 pages
We have
ahead.
payroll, so
So that's got your FICA, that's got your unemployment rates, your main state retirements for the 2 employees that are in that, your ICMA, 6% contribution.
Is it workman's comp too, or is that separate?
That is separate, but that does have your $750 employee clothing allowance. We also increased the training, employee training requirements. So that's in your administration.
So administration has the incentive plan and the clothing allowance.
Correct. Yep. The big one that I'm hopeful will go down, I really am, our legal. Our legal for the last 2 years has been very high as we've been dealing with our lawsuit. Not our lawsuit, but we're dealing with the lawsuit. That has really driven up our legal expenses here. I'm hopeful that we're turning a corner here. There seems to be some momentum gaining, and we'll see that number return to closer to what it was in 2021 and before. But we certainly have a lot invested in this. And I think we've still got some more work to get out of it. But, so yeah.
So we did 102,000 in legal last year, in 2022?
22, and right now we're running around 75,000. We still have a couple of months to get through 2023.
Is that all 102? Was that all EPB?
It was 90% of that, yeah. So those have been the big things under administration that are the big drivers of that increase. The one thing we kind of jumped ahead to look at the administration. The one thing that is another very large increase in our expenses is the Watershed Protection Commission. If we want to jump to their budget, they did vote on their budget, but full well knowing that we have not approved our budget, which funds them. They're looking at a substantial increase to their public education. They hire a education and outreach coordinator. This has traditionally been a part-time employee. Unfortunately, we have not been able to retain anybody for much more than 1 year because, again, it's a part-time employment. We have a lot of turnover.
Who was it?
It changes every year. Right now, we have
I don't remember either.
Dylan
Hertzberg.
Hertzberg is our current education outreach coordinator.
And what do they do?
They
Assist Erica.
They assist Erica, but they get into our schools, they put on educational programs, they do public education, they manage the outfacing of the public from the Watershed Protection Commission, spreading a positive message of, watershed protection. They have budgeted to make that a full-time employee, which has jumped that one particular line item, from 40,000 to 81,000. It's roughly a 25% increase in their their.
Wouldn't it make more
their
sense
budget.
to outsource that to a marketing company?
It's a real good idea.
I did vote against the budget. I was the only dissenting person. But here's the makeup of the commission. If you, let's just say, keep 85 instead of the 105, Lewiston will put in the 85 because it's 50-50, and then they'll just use their sinking fund to fund their budget. So we don't have to increase that if we're looking at a lot of other costs.
Well, I certainly think if we're increasing incentives, we're increasing our stuff like clothing and stuff, the necessities for people's boots and stuff like that. I don't think paying someone to go out and say, oh, look how good the law pack is, we didn't cut any trees down this year.
And they don't just do it in local schools, they go to other towns.
Oh, the watershed. They cover the watershed.
A whole watershed,
Yep.
yeah.
I personally would want to find out what that person's doing all day.
I concur. That's another thing I've been questioning for a long time too.
No, I mean,
how-
they're working. They're working. They're doing website stuff. They're going on walks. They're organizing events. They're doing stuff. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
there's a sinking fund that can afford to pay that. We don't have to pay more money if we don't want it. I mean, we don't. There's no need. They're still going to
So
get
our
the money.
actual budget, so
You're just going to dwindle their sinking fund a little bit.
so if you were to say this, I didn't bring my glasses.
I didn't either.
It's only 20 grand, but we could save 20 grand by just funding
We could
the same
save
as
20
last year.
grand and that covers both of those other things that we just talked about
Yeah, and
budgetarily.
and 20
Yeah,
grand is
we're
only
putting
worth
that-
1 minute worth of discussion, so we should
Yeah.
move on.
So I'd be in favor of hacking that budget by 20 grand.
Keeping it flat is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
keep it
Is
flat.
that what you're
Keeping the
suggesting?
public education line item flat.
No, we don't do line
No,
items. for that.
we're not gonna,
Yeah,
just
but
the
you
total
We're just saying the
contribution.
total. Instead of 105, we're saying hold it to 85.
85,
Come
yeah.
back to us with-
And
Well,
let them-
there were other increases in their budget, not just the education and outreach, but the education and outreach, that portion alone went up 40,000, which we're on the
Yeah.
hook for 20. So you're saying if they could minus what we're expected to contribute by,
They're just gonna use their sinking fund.
Yeah, we understand what that they're,
Yeah.
but so we're trying to understand what what line item on the budget we're hacking. What else did they increase that is questionable?
so they're increasing, we had to step up our efforts, with all the big rainstorms we had this year. It cost them money for us to operate for them. We had to go out and clean up Spring Road, we had to go out and clean out Lake Shore Drive, we had all those vehicles going into the lake. You gotta remember, the commission doesn't have staff, so when they need operations
pay us
staff
to
to
do
go out, that they pay us to do it. So they're paying out so much that they need to increase their budget to, again,
Pay for us.
pay for us to do this work. So those numbers have increased.
Something's wrong with that.
Well, half of it's Lewiston.
We
That's
did.
how we get money out of Lewiston for.
We did.
There is something wrong with it, you're right.
You're right.
Jason liked that.
They did increase the executive administration. Again, I did share with them, I am now a clerk of the Watershed Commission. I was voted back in as a co-clerk with Kevin Cagney. They increased their executive administration because we're going to be now billing for my time serving as clerk.
We got that through.
In an executive format. So they had to put $6,000 in their budget to cover paying the Auburn Water District for that role. So there are other increases.
So that's 3 for Lewiston, 3,000 Lewiston, 3,000 us. So we're basically paying for Mike to do that.
Well, that's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works. Well, I mean, maybe we can say 90,000. I mean, obviously, everybody's increased, and we've 74 to, we went from 74 to 85, and everything has gone up, so, I don't know, would that be insulting if we just said, listen, we understand there's a few things we need to do, but if we said, we'll kick in 5, and we go back, give another 10, between us and Lewiston.
So we'd be okay with going to, instead of 85, we would go, instead of 105, we would go up to 90?
Go to 90. I mean, that would take care of what we know is administratively is in the increase.
It's good. What were the other reasons you voted against the budget?
Well, I mean, obviously, we don't want to get into this, the whole split thing, but they just are oblivious to the fact that half the board is Lewiston, and they don't really give a shit that Auburn ratepayers are subsidizing.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
that's.
I got you. It wasn't a specific thing. It was more of a, okay, gotcha. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else in the budget that you saw.
What was the sinking fund comment though? That's
So they'll just
It's
support the
like
budget.
a fund balance.
Yeah.
So
It's their
explain,
savings
like,
account.
so they have that and can use it?
Yeah.
So you're looking at, we're gonna contribute, they're asking us to contribute 105,000. Lewiston is gonna contribute 105,000. If you look up above, they're also planning to take 115,000 out of their fund balance to fund their organization for next year. So in addition to our two contributions of 105, they're taking 115
Right.
out of savings.
It's just
This is their
Right.
this is their
Do
budget.
you know how
for
big
next
is
year.
their fund balance?
So this is saying carry forward 180,000.
4 million?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could not even fund them
How
this year.
did,
and
how
it's
did they
still-
get $4 million in their fund balance? How long has that
They've been
been?
getting too much from Auburn and Lewiston.
They got $4 million in their fund balance?
And as a complete district, we have to maintain at least $1 million. I mean, we're sitting fat too, but it's crazy.
I think more than us.
Oh, yeah.
They got
No,
more, they have more
that's what
cash
he's
than we
saying.
do?
Oh, yeah.
That's what,
And they're coming at it for more and more and more.
So,
yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Did you know they had $4 million in fund
I
balance?
knew they had a lot of money. I never knew exactly how much, or at least I didn't know it for a couple of years.
It's never been a number that they share in the budget, but it was asked at the last meeting, and that's what they stated. And that's the first time I'd ever heard it.
That's, in 30 years, they've accumulated $4 million. Wow. What do they do with $4 million?
They're not doing it, that's just it. It's sitting there.
Right now, they can get interest, and you can use the interest money almost to buy any properties that you using just the interest.
They
not
can
much-
you can go down to Androscoggin, go down to
You
TD
get 5%
Bank and get
now.
5%.
Right, so, that's $200,000.
There's not much for property to buy.
That's the budget right there.
That's $200,000 a year just on the interest on the money.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna stay with what, my recommendation is to give them an increase because it's been an increase, but
But the
What's the
increase,
plan?
we talked 90,000,
We don't.
What's the plan for the fund balance?
let it sit there.
They're pulling 115,000 out in 2024 to fund their operations next year.
Okay.
And if any properties come up that they need to consider, that comes out of that fund.
So, I'm just gonna do some math, just because.
Because you like to do that.
So it's $200,000 a year
yeah, just
in
the interest.
interest. So they're only using half their interest, but who knows where they put the money in? My guess is that, based on, I'll keep my opinion to myself, but,
So,
all right.
what was that $90,000 figure, rather than 100 and whatever?
Well,
I
said
just
this
said flat 85. He suggested 90.
Only because I know that because of the clerk job and a few other things that have just gone up, then if I was gonna support any kind of an increase, it'd be like 90,000.
And I completely support the clerk job, and funding it, but I don't, when you look at that $4 million, this
Well-
doesn't, an increase of any increase doesn't
I
make
have
sense.
no problem with that if we wanna send a message to them saying, listen, you got enough money.
So, are we looking at flat funding
That's
last
what I would
year's?
like.
But I just didn't want them being
Yeah.
back.
Were they using it to buy land in the past? Is that what they used the fund balance
Yes.
for?
They
Yes.
just didn't have enough, they had more money than they needed, they didn't have enough land to buy. Eventually, there's not opportunity.
They spent the money on the Route 4 improvements, and the gates, and this and this and that. They've sold
They
stuff.
paid for the CDM
But
Smith
do they
study.
still own the bracket house? I think they might have sold that.
What about,
It's
did you
300,
say
400
we
now.
own that.
they paid us to
The
clean
water
up
district owns that?
the road and stuff?
We should sell it.
Okay.
What about the flat funding
Can we
idea?
sell it
Jason's
to
flat
Walmart?
funding.
We're in,
That's
Hold
where
on,
I
we'll talk
think
about
we're
that
at
after.
personally, but
Holy shit.
I don't think we should.
That's
personally waste
$400,000.
more time on it.
What did you say?
I just think we should keep it flat. Let's
Yeah.
just see what they come back with, and, you know, I don't wanna nitpick the line items, that's their.
No, our job is to nitpick
He
line.
now gets
Well,
paid
the
to
total, I mean, we
go
don't,
back.
no.
we don't really,
Right.
we don't really nitpick the line. Yes, we're looking at them and making our overall
This is
budget
our
decision.
job.
But right, the total number, the line item, 85,000 is what I'm personally saying.
That's what you'd like to say?
Yes.
And I'd be in favor of that as well. Andy's suggesting 90, but we want to flatline
It's
it?
about the same as flatting, but the net extra 5 is just a token saying we understand you have some increase.
That would at least cover the clerk requirement. if you
Well, they
want
can
to
take the class, see, to me, it's like they can take the clerk requirement out of the $4 million.
Or just the interest on the $4 million.
Yeah, on
So-
the interest that they're
Or a
not
little bit of
using,
the
it's
interest.
still
Yeah.
accumulating. In today's increasing inflation rates and the stuff that
So, Jason, are you gonna propose flat funding this, like you've been talking about?
Yes?
Yeah, well, I think we're all.
Well, this isn't
And
the
we're all
official.
there.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, so
We're all
you're
there.
gonna make notes, and or is this the
I
official
would like to
budget?
see you guys take, they have voted on their budget.
But is this
This is
the
our
official-
draft budget.
So do we have to make a motion to adjust a line item?
I would like for you folks to make a motion to adjust the
Jason?
line item to flat fund that, if that's what you want to do.
So I'll make that motion.
Then I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All in
I
favor?
didn't say it, but yeah, you got it right, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unanimous.
The motion was to flat fund that budget item to match 2023.
I'd also really like an answer about where that sits and where the interest goes, because I don't see an interest line item as a plus.
Well, you don't see their sinking fund on that, so.
But they must get some interest, so that should show up as a.
They
The
should.
city puts it
Interest of
the city puts their fund balance and it's done in strats. You know, it's not all long-term, but it's done in 3, 6, and 12-month.
Well, the fund balance is always shown as what's left after you paid all your bills, that's a floating thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
what, Jill takes the fund balance and she works with Androscoggin Bank and she does it in 3, 6, and 12-month savings bonds, whatever you call them.
So this fund balance line item under revenues for them is just this difference of what they didn't spend out of last year's budget? Is that right? Or would
That's
they?
what that would be? Or is that what's going into this
No,
budget?
they're taking $115,000 out of their
Right, I
funded with carryover to help operations in 2024.
To offset
So under
operations.
revenues, there's fund balance carry forward also, which is 88,000.
Well, it's for what, 180,000
No,
for 2024.
Yes.
So they've increased it. They've always been taking some money out of their fund balance, but now they've increased it.
so they're taking the 115 out,
Well, it's got.
and they're taking out 180? That's two separate.
It doesn't add up, because it was 88, now it's 180, so it tells me that it's not 115.
So last year they carried 88 of fund balance to help operations. This year, they're doing 180. So
So
there's
it's
your
not-
115 plus what they did last year to cover what they need.
I mean, I take 88 from 180 and I come up with 92. So it's an increase of 92,000 in what they're taking from their fund balance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, no,
certainly-
they budgeted 2023 88.
That's how
They
they,
took 88.
and now they're gonna take 180,
They're budgeting, taking 180.
which is not 110 more, that's
No.
like 92 more.
Right.
So it's 22 on top of what they normally.
Blanchard Pond funded with carryover, I don't know what the,
That's a project, that's gonna be expenditure next year, they're gonna,
so if 180, 115 of that's gonna be that.
yeah.
I see, sorry, okay.
Yes, okay. Yep, so in other words, they're actually only saying we only need 65 grand to fund, out of the fund balance to fund the operations. We're adding 115 that we're taking out of the fund balance to cover the Blanchard.
Right, correct.
So yeah, so they're only taking 65, and last year they took 80. 88. Okay.
So where were we? So, bond payments, we did add the vac truck that we're getting this year. We added that to our bond notes, so we can anticipate paying that. You'll see on our long-term debt schedule that we don't have any
If I had my glasses, I could see
bonds
the-
expiring until 2027, so we don't have any coming off the payroll here for a little bit.
Let me show you something, Bob. You wanna see something cool, Bob? Look at this.
You take a picture with this going.
No,
I hope that's budgeted.
look at, it's called a magnifier app.
So we have not put placeholders into the equipment in capital projects based mainly off the presentation we gave earlier.
What is it?
You haven't put.
We have
estimates
not
for
filled
equipment?
in the equipment and or capital for 2024 yet. We've put placeholders. $1 million for water, 500,000 for sewer, and we've held at 170 for equipment. And I'm hoping we're gonna figure out how we stay within that, but we are working on that right now.
Okay. Well, you guys were saying you guys had an item that open for discussion.
Well, I want to talk about COLA. So I've always been one to propose, it's always been kind of the third grader, but I know that when cost of living was at 1%, we still gave 2 and 3% increases because we had to give something. And now that it's at 3, now we're going to be exactly 3 because that's what it is. Next year, if it's 2, are we going to be at 2 or are we going to stay at 3 because 2 is not enough? So I've just always asked that I make a motion that we change that COLA 3.2 to 2% instead of 3.2.
I'll second that.
And if you open for discussion.
Okay, yep, now it's open for discussion.
3.2 isn't a big COLA. I think we should stay, we should go with that.
Jason?
It's not a huge number, but I do see the point because we're bumping up, we've got the incentive, other things, so
I don't remember us doing more than COLA
I've
in the
never
past.
seen us do more than what COLA is. We've only done at COLA or less than COLA.
Oh, that's.
Well,
We've
when
never
it-
gone over whatever a
When
COLA
inflation was at
recommendation
0
was.
and 1%, we were doing 2%.
Here's why I support his motion. Last night I asked the sewer trustees and I asked staff, how many people have we lost in the last year or two? And attrition's been very, very minimal. So I think it'd be prudent for us to try to help out and make up for some of these other expenses that I feel they're important to do by just reducing the COLA. There's no requirement to fund that 3.2 this year or whatever. I don't, that's.
No, I think they're
There's a
legitimate
retention,
points,
you
it's
know, so-
legitimate points.
I mean, we did 6 last year plus 5% retention bonus.
No, last year for 2023, we implemented the new pay grade, which overall was a 9.5% increase. We never got confirmation that any of that matched or was part of any COLA.
But we didn't do a COLA last year?
Nope, we did not.
And
I'm almost positive we
thought
did
it
a
was in
COLA.
there.
I don't remember a year we never did a
We
COLA.
did not do a COLA, we did a wage scale increase, because we did the salary survey, which recommended increases to the starting wage. The overall increase of that wage scale increase was 9.5%, and it did not include a COLA.
Okay,
And that's
so the
why
motion-
you added the $2,000 retention bonus last year, is because that COLA was not in there.
Okay.
I just remember.
So the motion's on the floor, that to eliminate this, to move it from 3.2 to 2? Is that correct? Is that what the
Right.
motion was?
Yep, and seconded.
Okay, it was, yep, seconded. Is there any other discussion? All in favor? All against? Motion passes 3-2.
And this is like 5 years you've been
I
talking
know
about
this,
this.
yeah.
So the-
Had a
So
reduction.
next year, you're gonna be on board with full COLA, plus 1 point.
The only thing we'll have to look at is as we move closer, the next trustee meetings, which will be in December 20th. That's our water trustee meeting, the sewer trustee meeting's on the 19th. Generally, we'll have an abbreviated water trustee meeting. We will then go into a joint meeting where we need to talk about joint things like COLA. The sewer board did not take a vote on COLA, as we've taken with 2%. So that'll have to be discussed jointly when you vote on, then you'll have public hearing, and then both boards will vote on the budgets after that.
And I don't know, remember, we usually use a general rule, if both can't agree on something, it doesn't change. But I don't know if that's still.
That came to a head once, and that was the direction.
So that amount we're talking about, just as, so let's make sure we're all on the same page, that 3.2% COLA is,
Well, there's a line item.
it goes from the budget was, what's that dollar amount equal to?
So the COLA was gonna be 36,534.
36,534,
Yeah.
so that dollar amount's about $3,000.
Yeah, well, maybe 4.
3-4 grand, something like that.
So that'd bring that down to
It's a,
around 32.
it's not a significant budget item number, it's a principled statement. And so I think we want
What did you say, 30,000? I missed
to,
it.
is that what the total was? 31,000 was the increase, the COLA? I don't know.
The COLA, 36,534 was what it was COLA.
And that includes that's a 3.2% increase.
Right.
So
COLA
if
was-
So it would be actually, so that's a reduction of 40% on that COLA, thereabouts, so that number would go to about 20,000. So that's about a $15,000 reduction, I would guess, right? Is my math right? 3.2, 2% is, 3.2 is about 40%, isn't it? It's about 35, 40% in that ballpark, so that number is reduced by 35%. So that's not an insignificant number. It's 15 grand.
Yeah, the total COLA is 51,611.
Oh,
For
between
both
the two.
When you add.
Yeah,
Between
it
the
was a
two.
21,000, yeah, it was a 13, 14,000 saved just for water alone.
Okay. Anybody else have any quick thoughts on that? So it's not an insignificant, that's the point, I didn't want to make, that's not an insignificant amount of money. 15 grand. Okay, anything else?
Yeah. Let's see.
Birds?
You meant-
Or we leave that.
Birds, please. Yes, I want to talk about birds, but I want to add, so that you mentioned the jobbing, I understand that one going up. Why is, wait, sorry, I'm just skipping through, rents are flat, jobbing is up, fire protection is flat, is that just an estimate?
Yeah.
So it could be,
That only goes up if our rates go up. If
Right.
our rates up, the
That's what
number
the,
stays
that's
the
what
same.
the city,
okay.
that's what the city
That's what the
pays.
city pays, and some private, right?
okay,
Public.
fire protection is the next one.
Private.
And that's flat, is that an estimate? Or is
Yep.
that- okay. So we don't, okay. Where is it?
Private would go up if you added a bunch of commercial buildings that paid for sprinkler services.
So administration goes from 229, was projected at 229, and it's gonna be 224, basically.
23.
But you showed me, you said flip to the administration tab, I couldn't make that number match. So what am I missing? Is this joint?
That's a great question.
It's 700,000 in the administration tab, the third page, but it's 220,000 in the front page.
Oh, I should know the answer to that.
Well, you look into it.
Yeah, and one quick question, I think we ought to, since we've,
Okay, I know what the answer is. So the big number in there is your health insurance, and you're funding 100% of your HRA. That's your total liability. Our experience has been that we don't pay that money out. We pay out a very small percentage of that. But that we, so if you look at that health insurance, HRA account, 37% of exposure.
Oh,
So that's what we're carrying in there.
so that additional 317,000 is the
I
difference.
believe so, yeah. I will double check with our new finance company.
That'll be good.
follow up on that, the vote that we just took, which is 3-2. It's a split vote. What do we want to do? How do we want to handle the sewer department? Because there's going to be a split vote on that, based on this board.
Well, we'll also have Eric and we'll also have
Right.
Kevin probably.
But, so do we want to, how do we want to handle it if do we want to do a majority vote of all trustees and like,
The
how
way
do
we
we
have
want
it
to
in the
handle it?
past, and the only way it's worked, and it's because there's no other way, is that both boards do not want to change something that relates to both boards. It doesn't change.
So it would be, then it would revert back to the 3.2. Okay.
If sewer does not want to do it.
Are you guys good with that? And I know you
I
want,
don't like the policy, but I think that you gotta have something, because obviously we'd have a stalemate. We can't pay
No, well, we
water
could-
employees different than sewer employees.
If there are enough votes to vote no against that, then we would not approve the budget until somebody compromised.
No, I'm talking about when we get into our joint, now if we.
That's what I mean.
We have, I don't think that the body has, when you get together, they're to, how does that work if you get,
So you
One
go
or two.
into a joint
right, but the,
budget meeting, and that's where you can then discuss a COLA and
We can
maybe
do
why one
amendments and all that
district
stuff. Okay, then
or
that's what
one
we would
district
vote
went with
for.
the other.
That's-
You then go into public hearing, you read the bottom line number of the budget, and no comments, usually nobody shows up for these public
Yeah.
hearings. You immediately come out of public
Steve will
hearing,
be here.
and the two boards will vote on their budgets.
tell us how
And they
improves the
typically
budget.
vote on just the line item, the total, you know,
Right.
so if you had adjusted it in the earlier meeting, then
That new
when we get
adjustment
together
goes
as a
in.
group,
Right.
as a joint meeting, we can change if there's a
Yep.
majority. So that's what, I guess that's how that would work, so.
So let's
If you had
plan on,
sewer
you guys,
people that were on board with that,
because, and then it's going to mean that people like Dan and Bob and me are going to have 2 votes.
But are you
Because we got one from each
But the
board.
sewer's gonna address this, aren't they gonna do their own budget review?
they looked at this last night and they did not take a vote on COLA.
Okay.
They left it in as 3.2% increase.
So we're gonna make a change which is gonna affect sewer, so we're gonna have to reconcile that in the joint meeting. That's,
Right.
I'm just putting that on the
One way to
thing.
handle is we can ask the sewer to take a vote on it, wouldn't that be, then if they agree, then we're just, we're done.
that may have happened before, when they have their brief meeting.
They might say no.
You can say there's
They
one
might say, I don't
issue.
wanna vote on it.
They might vote in the 3.2.
Right. Then we have to reconcile at the joint meeting. Okay.
So I'll bring it up in the meeting. that
They're
there's
gonna be
been a
meeting on the
request.
19th, so
Yeah.
they'll meet the 19th, they could
I'll-
take that vote.
I'll make that, say
I'll
that,
be there.
yep, Dan will be there, Bob will be there, I'll be there, we'll bring that up as an item.
Yeah, and like I say, I think the way it worked is that both boards can't agree separately, then it can't change it when it's a joint.
That was a determination that we got in the past.
So the last
Okay.
times that we wanted to do certain things.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll make that, okay, I think that's fair. Anybody have anything else on the budget that we gotta, it's coming up on
I think
6
it's
o'clock?
It's unfortunate that we have to look at 9.6% increase, but, you know, we can't stop inflation.
So I think that does, I think, and I'm gonna be handing, I have a strong suspicion I'm gonna be handing this over to somebody else, but I do think you probably need to start having the rate increase discussion with people, because we only have so much time. That cash is only gonna be good for
And
another
it takes
year.
us a while. If we don't
Right.
do it this March, we have to wait a full calendar year.
That's right, so I think
So,
it's something that we should put on as an agenda item, and it's something that needs to happen. And let's make it a smaller increase than,
Yeah.
than maybe
maybe you could
proposed.
have, I know we haven't got a finance
Yeah.
person, but, you know,
What,
we usually have little things
know,
that show if we increase by this
Yep,
much, this is
yep.
what.
Yep.
yeah,
That must be a template out there.
have that
No,
for,
we have that.
have that for January's
Yep.
meeting, maybe?
Yep.
We have to
Jason?
look at
Yeah,
whether
we
we do it or
do.
not.
We
have to
do.
look at it.
Interest income is flat. Do we know, is that just a guess? Or we didn't have anything to go by, or? 'Cause I would think-
That is what we've been doing in previous years. We've just, that's been the practice, that we keep that as flat.
Let's get an address that, because, why that is, because when we're having the bond discussion, and we were discussing, and it was a 10-year bond. If we bonded $100,000 and paid back 120 in 10 years, somebody said, well, that's 20% interest.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
That's when they were arguing against bonding at 1%.
yeah.
I keep looking at this graph, that's our minimum. So even with all our extra expenses, I think water is gonna be a little bit better than sewer. Sewer's gonna probably have to go for a rate increase.
Well, they already had one, right? Didn't they just
Yeah.
have one?
Yeah, they
And
did.
they
Well, they
had
didn't
the full
bond
effect of
anything.
it, but they might have to have another one.
Yeah, but we bonded money specifically for the replacement of pipe,
I know.
not for general operations.
4 million.
Yeah,
No,
no, two.
Just two.
Two?
you're thinking sewer.
So what, we're doing just for the.
So that money it's in there and it's good because our costs have gone way up, and if it wasn't bonded to replace X number of feet.
Yeah.
That was estimated, it was done to replace pipe, so we can use it with the increased costs. But,
We have pretty liberal language on what we can use that for.
yeah, so,
But the idea, the intent was that we would have money to put in the
Put in
ground.
pipe.
into our
So we
infrastructure.
can use the other money for other things, but to
Yes.
save that. money
Right, so I think in good stewardship, we do have to talk about a rate increase.
And see what effect it has, because nobody could have expected these kind of increases.
Exactly.
Well, people did expect it and said it was going to happen, and people voted that way anyway, but that's okay. That's another argument.
Get a housekeeping item when we're done budget discussion.
Yeah, is that a trustee,
No, just clarification, Andy was right. I was at sewer last month, I was not at water, so we need another motion to approve the minutes. And someone else can second it?
I mean, you can make a friendly amendment
Change your
here.
vote.
Well, I can't, I can't.
Well, if you abstain, it's 3. We'll call it you abstained, and it's
Okay,
3.
but it's gonna go on record as I made the motion, that's fine, I guess.
Oh, okay, you made the
Yeah,
motion.
that's right.
All right. So I'd like to accept a motion to approve, the previous motion is no good. I'm gonna accept a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting, October the 25th.
Yes, so moved.
Jason?
Second.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
And
Two abstains?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, we did that right.
Here we go.
I like doing things right.
Yeah, because of you.
Right,
Alright,
okay,
so Jason does have 5 minutes. He's got 5 minutes.
all we got is trustee open session. Who's got a comment,
He's
who's
got
got
it.
something to say?
No, I wasn't done on the budget, but you
Yeah,
guys
so
go ahead.
I looked this
I was
way,
gonna
man.
ask, you
Okay.
said something about following up on goal management, so I'll leave that, okay. And then the revenue estimate, do we have any way of projecting that based on growth projected, water usage, trends, anything at all? Is there any?
Well, if I had to
Stick
project
your finger up
that
in the
now,
air.
I'd project a decrease because we decreased in 2023. You know,
With so many new apartments coming online though, shouldn't we at least break even?
we're projecting to break even. That's what we're hoping to do.
We could go turn some faucets on Stable Ridge.
There's no way.
I'm sure not full occupancy.
Well, the
Well, they got 2
BJ's
more
wanna be
buildings
online.
coming online. Hopefully the BJ's one by the end of this summer will be going online. There's the potential for the Brickyard Commons, if that goes forward, that's another 90 units. There's others out there.
Is that it? Good. Sorry, man, sorry.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I thought you were done, Jason, my apologies on that. So, nobody has anything, trustee open session?
Did I hear someone mention that evaluation, do you need to start talking about that?
I sent an email to you, Steve, and Steve as the 2 chairs of the boards, and I sent it to you because in the past you had brought this up, I sent it today.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it.
About, it's hard to believe we're coming up on a year at the end of this year for me being superintendent. I just want to make sure I'm doing what you guys want me to do. And
Can that be homework? Can you pass that stuff out?
Yeah, but I'd
Yeah,
like to
and-
revise the process, to be honest. I think we should talk about the process. I don't know if it needs to be an agenda item or if we
But
just.
when do we have to complete it? Because if we just keep it,
December.
There's no requirement for us to do it.
there is not.
No, but I think it's nice to have, and I think it's
Yes.
a good thing to do for.
Feedback for him.
I'm just asking for feedback.
Yeah.
Right, you don't have to go
He's
through the
asking
whole
for it,
process.
yeah.
Right.
I just.
How about this?
So that's why I'm thinking maybe simplifying the process.
Here, how about this? How about each trustee write their own evaluation of Mike? And say, I think you're doing great, don't change a thing. Here's the things that I'd like from you that better, and just
And
do
ultimately,
it.
that's what happened with the previous process. There was a rating system and everyone kind of just ignored it. I mean, people put numbers, but it just ended up being the write-up and the comments was the real evaluation.
So let's
I
do
think
that.
in sense-
Instead of all the other stuff, which is too hard to, let's just, everybody write an evaluation,
I
one
think
paragraph.
it is important that somebody, maybe the
Who's
president
gonna let
or
Eric and
you work with,
Kevin know?
just to have like memorialize a record of what the
Yes.
evaluation was, so that when you go to the next year, you have some barometer to say, look back, okay, did he do better or worse?
Yeah,
That's something that.
maybe we'll each
and
person
not
give
necessarily
a
that term,
three,
those terms.
that's all, each person give a written, how about this? Each person give their evaluation, a written evaluation of what you'd like to, whatever it is, your evaluation, and say satisfactory, needs improvement, exceeds requirements, or some, what was it, exceeds satisfactory, needs improvement.
Mine will be a letter to the editor.
That's fine. Do you, I'm throwing out a suggestion, but
No,
that
that's good.
I like that.
I like
You like that?
I
Well, I'm
like
gonna come up with,
So just because it was a formal process that we established, let's just
But we
check
did-
it off on the agenda and
Yeah.
next week just have a vote and let's just bang it out.
Yeah.
Or down. I mean, we can make the motion right now.
do we
if
give
you
it
guys
to
are-
Jason initially? No, we just give it to,
Well, that's our formal process is gonna be
Yeah.
each this year. And if you'd like, I don't think that it would be best to give it to me because I may not be here.
Well, the chair, for president and Mike.
but you're here till January, I mean, or till the 17th.
I might have one more meeting.
Right.
Why don't you give me in March?
No,
With the
No,
new
He's the
mayor.
mayor's appointed.
February?
He could be.
no, I could be. No, the new mayor could, I think you're gonna put somebody else
But
in.
he's not a new mayor till March 5th.
No, he's the new mayor on January 1st, as soon as he's inaugurated.
The 12th or 5th.
Isn't that the
whatever they have
5th? March 5th inauguration?
No,
January.
Oh,
it.
First
December 12th or 15th is. when the
inauguration, but then I think he officially assumes
Starts in
duty on the
January.
first.
But remember, trustees pick the president, so.
Right. Right, so you guys gotta think about who you want for president.
If he gets booted.
I like, President Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think you'll be good right where you are.
Okay, well,
I don't know, I think Bob might just divert and go out towards trains and stuff like that.
All right. We're off.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Yep, Bob,
Okay.
second.
Will, can you put the, formal approval of the revised, evaluation onto next?
I will.
And we'll just do that quick approval. Before we adjourn, we unadjourn.
We have.
All in favor of the new approval?
Oh,
Of the new evaluation for the superintendent?
So you motioned, I second.
But nobody voted on it.
Now, any more discussion?
Anybody, all in favor?
I think it's simple enough.
Yeah.
It simplifies it.
Do you have the new,
So we're not putting it on
are
the
you good with the new
So
process?
you were the first and he was the second.
Second, yeah.
Yeah.
Did we
Motion
just
to
second
adjourn?
adjourn and we vote?
No, we didn't vote on the adjourn.
No,
So
we
now,
didn't.
Motion to
Second.
adjourn?
so motion to adjourn, second?
Second?
He's a-
I thought we were-
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
All right.
Now we're adjourned.
There.